Hello, my name is Aaron Edwards, co-founder and market consultant of Santos Springs. We offer grain marketing solutions to producers in multiple countries. Welcome to our W2H grain marketing channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I also recommend tapping the bell so you get future notifications. And if you like what you see, hit the like and share this video with other farmers who care deeply about their grain marketing. If you are a corn or soybean farmer, your revenue depends not only on your production, but also the answer to three simple questions: when, how much, and how you sell. One W, when, two H's, how and how much. Our W2H mentorship provides a clear, concise, and custom approach to answering each one of these three questions for your specific farm throughout the year. Before we start this week's content, it's always important to remember that trading in futures products entails significant risk of loss, which must be understood prior to trading and may not be appropriate for all investors. This commentary and the information contained within should be considered market commentary and reflect the opinions of the author. For those of you watching this with a delay, if you are a U.S. corn or soybean farmer and want to stop being held hostage by market uncertainty, let us teach you how to place each one of your bushels in a grain marketing strategy specifically designed to optimize your farm's revenue. Click on the link and we'll work together to see if our W2H mentorship is the right next step for your grain marketing. Hello, this is Aaron Edwards with Santos Springs. It is May 20th, 2025. We've got a lot of good information to go through, rain forecasted, planting ahead of pace. Before we jump into all that and the position of the funds, let's start with the recommendation. We always, our view is farmer first. Farmers are busy. We want a bias towards action. We want to make sure that you can have an action plan going in to so you can stay focused on field work as much as possible, but also so that you're not missing any marketing opportunities. I believe this is the fourth week in a row, might be the fifth week in a row, with no action recommended. So again, no action recommended. If you're busy in the field, you have a lot to work on. No action recommended on grain marketing this week. That doesn't mean there isn't a lot to go over. It is an important week, as it's important to check into markets every week. But the starting point is just no action recommended. And now let's jump over, take a quick look at planting progress. At the end of the day on Mondays, we get the USDA, crop progress report. So we'll take a glance at that. We'll look a little bit at some forecasted weather. Let me just grab a marker here to highlight this a little easier. Let's do a highlighter and let's do it in green. Pull this up to the top. There we go. All right, so we're gonna start with, we're looking at corn. This is the USDA numbers as of yesterday afternoon, Monday afternoon, the 19th. And 78% planted as of May 18th, reports put out on the 19th. That's 5 percentage points above the historic trend. And if you remember last year, we kind of hit a little bit of a bump in May where we got a lot of rain and planting kind of fell a little bit behind. But even if we look just based on the historic trend, I want that in a marker. Let me get that in a marker. Black. That's 5 percentage points faster than the historic planting pace on corn. So corn going into the ground well. I always love to hear from you, especially during the growing season. So don't hesitate to shoot an email or just let me know what stuff's looking like in your area, right? So I hear from farmers across the US and also customers in South America, but the boots on the ground, the experts, that's you, right? So I always want to hear firsthand accounts. That helps me do a good job and know what's going on. It also helps our customers do a good job and know what's going on.
Now we'll look at beans. Get the marker there. We'll get a highlighter and let's do it in yellow. Soybeans, 66% planted. That is 13% faster than the historic pace. I heard back from some of you as far as the fast pace of planting and the adjusted behavior. I think part of the reason we get these fast planting numbers on beans is because I think a lot of operations have kind of gradually over the last few years shifted to beans first in their planting. And some of you kind of confirmed that where you have beans first. So if we have a 5-year average, by the time we get enough people changing behavior to change that 5-year average, fast bean planting, I guess, is not that it's not important, but I think it's somewhat just an adjustment to behavior that indicator is going to lag because it's a 5-year average, and then gradually you're having more and more people plant beans first. That's going to lag, and it's going to take us a few years before, I guess that's a true indicator in the sense of we are having a hard time or we are having a good time planting. All the same, beans are doing well. And then this is the from the World Ag Weather. They have a real nice website. Highlight that here in green. There we go. World Ag Weather. This is the 1 to 7 day. Pull it down so you can get the 1 to 7 day forecast. So if you look throughout this week, basically there's scattered showers in a lot of the Corn Belt. Some places maybe twice this week. If you put it all in the aggregate, big picture over the next week, the Corn Belt should get rain in almost all of it. So all that's to say, planting is fast, ahead of pace, going well, and rain is forecasted. No real fundamental story. This is the type of environment where we've not really had a hiccup to planting on a national level. I'm sure case by case, the equipment dealer doesn't come out in time or something breaks, or I'm sure you or your neighbor, I'm sure people have had hard times planting, but on a national level, the crop's gotten in well in a timely fashion, and there's rain forecast. We really haven't had a weather hiccup, at least not yet. And so as by way of transitioning, we just want to go back to the pyramid. If you're watching this in real time, we should have worked on your market plan together. If not, reach out. You should have that market plan done based on a marketing plan, based on that portfolio that we built for your operation. We look at funds, which is one of the main things we're going to talk about today. Funds, technicals, and seasonality, and that pushes us towards action. So the spoiler at the beginning of the video, no action recommended, is just saying, okay, as we look at everything, we're not sure that this is a week where we need to be, getting off the tractor and making sure you get your grain sales done. This is a week we could just, no action recommended, scout your fields, track that, watch the video if and when you have time. Make sure your crop's doing well. We will put up a smoke signal, make sure you know when it's time to take action. This chart, we're going to start with the corn market, and then we're going to switch to beans. I think this is probably the most important or the most noteworthy chart of the week is the spec fund switched from long to short. So this is the first time since October that we've had speculators net short the corn position. Just by way of simplifying it, how I think about it, over here where you have the 0 mark, and for a lot of people this is redundant, that means that the total long position held by managed money and the total short position is equal. So it's the net position is neither long nor short. So the amount that is bought and the amount that is sold is equal, the net position 0. Close to that 0 mark, speculators are neither buying nor selling. We got them to switch from long to short for the first time since October on last week's report. The huge question, and the reason this is in time, this will either be, wow, that was the warning shot that was fired, or that really wasn't a big deal. And that's what's tough about marketing, because we're still very close to that net neutral position. It's not it's not a very big deal, these net neutral positions. What is a big deal is when you get up here in these, let me change the color for that. What is a big deal there, green. What is a big deal is when you get up there in those overly exaggerated positions. That's when you get the good rallies. And down here, when you get the bad rallies. That's really what is the kicker. What does this look like on a chart? All right, let's go back and look. We're probably not going to see all the way to this blue area, but we'll see a little of this green where you get the speculators. And then let's take a look now at technicals on corn. And we want to start with the new crop. So technicals are tricky, right? Because you could basically get technicals to tell whatever story you want. So what I've found just from years of experience in interacting with the market, I keep it simple and then I just point out some items that matter. And we just take technical analysis with a bit of a grain of salt. That doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means all it measures really is kind of past behavior. That being said, let's just go over some basics again. Get blue. Okay. This line that's basically sideways, this is the 200-day moving average, roughly the average of the last 10 months. If you think 20, market sessions per month. And then this is the 20-day moving average. That goes up here, comes down here, and is looping around. The 20-day moving average is roughly the average price from last month. So when we're above this 20-day moving average, then we're in an uptrend, and it's green, right? And when we're below it, like we were here when we fell below it, let me get the blue over here. Oh, that was green. Fell below it, then we're in a downtrend, right? So that's uptrend, downtrend. It's not me guessing at markets. I just use the 20-day mover right there. If it's above it, markets are in an uptrend. If it's below it, it's in a downtrend. We'll get to that summary in just a bit. The question in my mind is we saw as of last Tuesday when the commitment of trade or the funds money, that report comes out on Friday based on the position of the previous Tuesday. So a week ago on Tuesday is we know that speculators were short a week ago. What now? So we'd have to go back and count 5 sessions. So that's the overnight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As of about right here, we know that the speculators had switched to net short. They had quote unquote given up all hope, which kind of makes sense because they were getting out of longs and getting into shorts on this fall right here. That's what they were doing. So are they going to continue selling or not? That's the big question. Well, we did get back into an uptrend. We are in an uptrend. So how convinced, if you're managed money and you're looking at the corn market, you say, okay, perfect planting, perfect weather. I'm saying from bird's eye view, right? I'm not saying region by region, but perfect planting, perfect weather. We're ahead of pace. There's rain forecasted. How sure do you have to be that the entirety of the rest of the growing season will be flawless for you to say, I can go ahead and start shorting this market with confidence because there's no risk we're not going to have a good corn crop this year? That's the big question. Are you convinced enough that crop year is great that you can short it? And then the flip side of that is say, okay, well, you're looking at we'll talk about, we're on to December, so I'll finish this thought process. What we had on yesterday's trade is what's called a key reversal. That's that big green bar. A key reversal is whenever you have, so a candle, high, low, open, close, right? And in the same trading session, you trade above it, you trade below it, and you close higher. That would be a reversal to the upside. And to the downside is, you close above it, you close above it, close below it, and close down. That would be a key reversal down. We saw in the July contract, and we'll look at it, we saw a couple of key reversals down. Now we're seeing a key reversal up in the new crop corn. I think that the best way to talk about these key reversals is just that there's big money, not sure if they want to be long or short corn, and we're seeing them on average getting closer to neutral. They were a little bit long a couple weeks ago. They're a little bit short as of last week. Where are they going to land on this? The corn market really hasn't picked its direction. I think that's the big picture, in my opinion. And now let's look at just July corn. We'll look at it real quick. But July corn managed an overnight trade to move up into an up trade, and I'll just circle the key reversals down that we had on the July corn. That was one. That one was another one where you trade above it, you trade below it, and you close lower. That happened on that candle, and then on that candle as well. See if we can get a little arrow there, a little arrow there. All right, shifting gears, we'll go to beans. All right, let me got the yellow marker. Do we want yellow? I think we'll go with blue here. Boom, there, blue. All right. Good news for beans is, first of all, for the last while, the beans have been net long. Not a huge long position, but they are net long. And they actually increased that. If you look from 2 weeks ago to last week, they increased that. So we're not at those big long positions that justify selling it, that we can get real excited about price action. But speculators are long. That's good news. And let's look a little bit at technicals. First, I want to point out, also before we jump into the technicals, I just want to take a look look at how long, if we look at negative 50,000 contracts to positive 50,000 contracts, which isn't, that's a pretty big position one way and the other, but look at how much of the last year has been either a little bit long or a little bit short. And it's really quite a bit of it. The extremes that we got were back, I'll make that yellow, back in here, we got some extremes. Then we got a little bit above that for about a month, but it really wasn't too exciting. We haven't really gotten that big, extreme, exciting run up in the funds or in the net position of the funds. So especially if we look at let's just look from basically since last fall, if we would just start it at about right here and just look at kind of that level right there, you see that a lot of the weeks we were kind of a little bit long or a little bit short, really nothing to write home about. And I wanted to point that out before we looked at the chart, because if you look at soybean futures back to October, it kind of resonates, right? It makes sense. We're either a little bit long. That's not what I wanted to do. We're either a little bit long or a little bit short, and there's really not very much to write home about. It's kind of just that sideways. Speculators really haven't made much of a position. And this big move that we got up in, if you want to call it a big move, that big move we got up in September, that was basically just speculators leaving short positions. But they actually had a bigger long position in here. The biggest deal from a technical standpoint, now we got to go back to what we just talked about in the corn market. This is the 200-day moving average. Right here, what we're just now seeing, this is the first time since 2023, first time since 2023 that we have spent any amount of significant time above the 200-day moving average. Above that 200-day moving average is where speculators would typically say, this is exciting, let's start buying some beans. They don't seem too awfully excited. Last week we had limit down bean oil day, and beans got punched in the gut along with it. But technically speaking, that's the most exciting thing. The big question is, are we just in this prolonged bear market where we're just barely going to peek our head above the 200-day moving average, and it's going to sell off, and we're going to go down to something ridiculous like 8 or 850 or 9 because markets just aren't done selling off? Or is there a chance that we finally do get a spring rally, finally do get something decent on the books, and maybe it's not a full out bull market, but a little pop, a little something to give us an opportunity at some profits. And this is where seasonality for me, there's fundamental traders, there's technical traders. For me, I think a balanced approach is the right way to do it. And this is where seasonality plays in. Where it's May 20th, right? We have a lot of growing season ahead of us. We start bumping up against July, where you're kind of one rain away from making a crop, especially a little bit of early planting. The calendar starts telling us you better be getting real disciplined real quick, because a lot of times markets don't recover from this. We have plenty of upside potential in July and August, but historically speaking, the bottom also falls out. So you just have a wider gap. You can have the best prices of the year or among the best prices of the year in July and August. So you can have all that upside potential, but you also sometimes the market falls and it just falls till harvest. It doesn't usually in May, it doesn't usually start falling in fall till harvest. There are exceptions, but usually we at least trade somewhat sideways. If we haven't had a rally or a significant rally, usually we at least get some sideways trade before it really tanks leading into harvest. And then we'll just old crop. This is July beans. They kind of look similar, right? They fell to the 200-day, but not below it. So they fell to the 200-day. They're below the 20-day. And if we can stay here and get up above, let's say that this 20-day comes down here, but we can get up above it and the green line comes here. Hopefully we could start, turn the corner there and make another move up. For this week, no action recommended. Maybe next week we're going to be saying, run for the hills, sell, sell, sell. We lost support, marks are tanking. Or hopefully what we're saying is finally we got that rally. Finally we're seeing this bean market come to life. We had something exciting, and we have better news. All the same, that's a quick glance. Now let's just summarize a little bit about the markets. And there are no questions this week, so we'll go from there. All right, now let's summarize it. Seasonally, it is a sell for corn. Managed money for corn is technically short, but they're not short enough to justify buying it. And the trend is an uptrend because it's above the 20-day moving average, but it has that resistance of the 200-day moving average. So it's an uptrend with some resistance above it. And then the beans, seasonally it's a sell. Spec funds are long, but not long enough to justify selling. And beans are in a downtrend. But again, they're below the 20-day moving average, but they're well supported at the 200 so far. So markets are as close to just not giving us an opinion as possible, right? A little bit long. Speculators are a little long on beans, a little short on corn. Both the 20-day and 200-day are getting really close in the corn and bean market. This is kind of as close to neutral as you could be. Now we'll take a look at basis. Basis by definition is location specific. So anytime you make generalized comments about basis, you have to be cautious. All the same, I'm gonna try to point out some generalized comments. So just be mindful that it is location specific. So any generalization, it'll have some exceptions, obviously. But corn and soybean basis are stronger than historic averages in the Eastern Corn Belt, but below historic averages in the Western Corn Belt. These mixed signals from cash markets add to the general sense of lack of definition in this market. Soybean markets collapsed later in the week, last week, due to bad headlines on soy oil, but have found good support at the 200-day moving average. Period. Managed money is staying long. Corn markets had two key reversals down in the July contract, and yesterday had a key reversal up in the December contract. With speculators switching to a net short position, but corn getting back into an uptrend, the technical signals on corn are very mixed. We did not have questions this week. I hope planting is going well. If you haven't finished, I hope it's safe field work for you to get finished. If you are finished, very soon we'll be talking about crop conditions. We'll be talking about what it's looking like, and be safe in the field. Thank you for all you do. No action recommended this week. I'll let you get back to it.